Today we're going to be talking about the simple way to build credit if you do not have credit. Okay, that's very important because if we're talking about going from bad credit to good credit, that's a totally different video. So if you don't have any credit, this is how I would suggest you build your credit as well as how you ultimately maintain it. Okay, so number one, you're going to get one credit card. Don't get a store card. Don't do like a Macy's or a Dillard's or Victoria's Secrets or Buckle. I see a lot of Buckle. Don't do any of those. Just get a MasterCard or a Visa, right? And here's the key thing where I see a lot of people make a mistake. So a lot of times when people go, oh, I need to build my credit, I'm going to apply everywhere, right? Or they go to a website, they're like, what's the best credit cards? And it's like, oh, if you like to travel, it's the Chase Sapphire Reserve, right? Guess what? Those are for when you have really good credit. You know, they're not going to give you those premium cards when you're just building your credit. So you want to make sure that what you apply for is realistic, okay? And, you know, I always like the website NerdWallet. I'm a big fan. I have been for years. You can go on NerdWallet, click on credit cards. You know, yes, they are getting paid to advertise credit cards. Totally. But if you put in that you don't have credit, it will match you with who, you know, is doing that. So for instance, when my son was first building his credit, his first credit card was Discover Card. You know, when I was in college, I think Discover Card might have been my first card too. You know, Discover's kind of known for that. So that can be one. Capital One often has cards as well for building your credit. So you want to make sure that who you're applying with, you've got a chance. And I say that because inquiries on your credit aren't great. They're not good for your score. It doesn't look good if you're applying for like 60 credit cards and getting turned down. What you really want to do is target who's realistic, apply there. If that one doesn't work, go to the next one. Okay. Now, would I do a secured credit card? No. I think that you can easily get an unsecured credit card if you don't have a credit history, if you're looking at like Discover or Capital One. Okay. But of course, do your research, check out NerdWallet. And the next thing I hear is like, oh my gosh, the interest rate's so high. Of course it is. I mean, look, even with good credit right now, interest rates on credit cards are over 20%. That's crazy. Like, look, the last thing that you want is credit card debt. So let me be really clear about this. We are not building credit right now together so that you can get yourself into a lot of debt. If that's your goal, go to another channel because I don't want to be a part of that. This is about building credit and maintaining credit so that ultimately when you have to make those big purchases like a car or a house, you get a good interest rate. Okay, because that's the deal. That's why you want credit. You don't want credit so that you can, you know, go on vacation when you can't afford it. You want credit so that when you buy the big stuff that you're not going to have the cash for, you get a decent interest rate so that you can afford it. That's what credit's for. Okay. Now, you've got your first credit card. So now what? It's pretty funny. Back in the day, people used to think that you would max it out and then make payments to show you could make payments. No, you're going to put a small amount on it every month and you're going to pay it off in full. Okay. And there's some channels where they're like, well, don't pay it off in full. Pay off this percentage on this date. Guys, it's overly complicated and unnecessary. Literally, if you do what I'm suggesting, you will have a good credit score. There's no need to A, pay these ridiculous interest rates, or B, go to these like lengths. It's just not more effective. So I would say small debt. So $200 limit, you put $50, you pay it off. Okay. And look, I'm a big fan of when you're building your credit, you want to get into these habits. So I would say if you make the $50 charge on Monday, pay it off by Friday. Have it in your rule book that if you put something on that credit card, you have to pay it off by the end of the week. It will keep you out of trouble, right? Because if you go, oh, well, I'll pay it off by the end of the month. Will you? Will you? You know, because a lot of times, you know, the beautiful thing about Americans is we're very optimistic, but you can easily think that it's more likely you're going to pay it off at the end of the month. Whereas if you know you have 3 days to pay it off, you're going to be more realistic about if that's actually going to happen. So if you make the credit card charge on Monday, pay it off by Friday, you know, and then I would set up auto pay so that if you accidentally forget, you know, have your auto pay set up 5 days before the due date and have the whole balance come out. Okay. And I say that because what if you get hit by a car? What if you go on vacation? What if you get distracted? You don't want a late. Okay. You don't want a late on your credit report. But once again, you don't want to pay that interest. That interest is offensive and horrible. Okay. When you pay that interest, you lost the game. They won, you lost. You're going to win. You're going to pay it off. Okay. So now what? You're like, wow, Jen, this is super boring. So I've got a $200 credit card and I'm putting $50 on it and paying it off every month. Yeah. That's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do for at least 6 months. Then you're going to open up a second one. Okay, what are you going to do with the second one? Same thing. Same exact thing. And if you're like, well, wait a second, shouldn't I show that I can charge more? I mean, look, let's be real about this. Ultimately with credit cards, what a lot of people do is they'll have cards as you have, good credit. They'll have cards that give them some sort of reward, airlines, miles, or points. And so people put all their expenses on those cards. Now, if you can do that and pay it off every month, amazing, amazing. But getting there takes time. So you want to start with the baby steps of the small amount, get into the tiny habit of always paying it off, okay? Don't fall for the stuff. I've had so many people tell me over the years, oh, well, I think to get a mortgage, I have to have a car loan first. No, you don't. No, you don't. Look, first of all, we can do mortgages for people who don't even have a credit history. So if you're scared of credit cards, your life's not over. Will you get a better rate if you have good credit? Yes. But, if you're scared of credit or if you don't want anything to do with it, do you have to have it? No. Okay? Not for most loans. Now, look, if you're trying to buy a $2 million house, you're going to need some credit. But general loans, we can get around it. The key with all of this, though, is that building credit is not about racking up debt and getting into debt. Building credit is about saying, hey, I'm going to borrow this $50 for you. I paid it back. I borrowed this $50 from you. I paid it back. You're showing a history of repayment, and ultimately, that's what's going to get you a good score. So please don't get into a lot of debt. You don't need a bunch of cards. If someone's telling you you need 4, 5, 6, 7 cards, it's not true. Realistically, long term, okay, I would say 3 credit cards, okay? And that's just, you can open one every 6 months till you have your 3. Do exactly what I'm telling you. Your limits will increase over time. Don't get into debt. Don't do any zero balance transfers. Those have fees. You don't want to have a balance, okay? That's it. That's the trick to building good credit and maintaining it. Don't have a balance, pay it off on time, and don't go crazy with it. Thanks for watching.